Welcome back to Core Motivations Podcast. I'm your host, Michelle Connolly. I'm a certified Enneagram coach and a Symbis marriage coach. Glad you're here to spend some time together. Recently I read this quote: "Our relationship to self is what determines the kind of relationships we will allow, engender, and cultivate with others." You see, understanding ourselves is what leads to understanding others. So, our topic for today is: which Enneagram type are you compatible with? It's such a big question. And of course, understanding the Enneagram is vital. And the assumption here is you have had a typing session, which helps with identifying where you land. What Enneagram type are you? Are you wondering what a typing session is? Well, I've got an answer to that. You see, typing sessions are aids which allow you to go deeper, asking questions with deeper intentions. So you not only land on the type you think or you best feel describes you, but it also helps explain the why you do what you do, which directly relates to your core motivations. You see, it gives language to understanding the deeper you and reintroducing yourself to those you interact with on a daily, as well as introducing yourself to you. So, if you haven't done that, I encourage you, set up a free 30-minute meet and greet with yours truly. That's me. And we can talk more about a typing session and get you started on your Enneagram journey. Look forward to hearing from you about that. So look in the show notes for that booking link. As we look at these aspects, meaning the compatibility of types 1 through 9, and it's based on understanding of what our core 4 is, aka core motivations of each type: the core fear, core desire, core weakness, and core longing. So, first, we're going to look at the compatibility pairings for the 9 types. And then we're going to look at some of the common challenges. And finally, we're going to bring it all together with some strategies to work through those challenges, which will help bring out the best in each person. The healthy side. Remember talking about paths and arrows? Well, the strategies that we're going to talk about today is what I would say is the follow through of the conversion path. It's that moment when we are working towards the healthy. We find our greatest success not in what we acquire, but in how deeply we know ourselves and how we sustain our well being. Let's look at who among the 9 Enneagram types would be compatible with each other. And keep in mind, there will be some overlap, but you will see that there are some interesting differences between one type's compatibility with another type, as well as the compatibility that type 9 has with so many of our types. You see, 9's peacemaker style, they can ground many of the core motivations of each of the types I paired them with. So be on the lookout for those connections. Okay, enough prep. I'm sure you're ready to see how it looks for each type. Keep in mind, this can be a romantic relationship or a friendship relationship. Maybe it's even a relationship between a parent and a child. It really depends on your perspective and relatability to the following information shared today. So, with an open mind and an open heart, let's get into it. First part we're going to look at is compatibility. Let's play a matchmaker. Our first match up is type 1 and 7. They are the reformer and the enthusiast. Pairing these two is a classic case of opposites attract because they connect through an Enneagram growth line. They are often called the balanced idealists because of their powerful complementary attributes. Ones bring structure and discipline, while sevens bring joy, spontaneity, and adventure. Ones give sevens a safe place to land and ground themselves, while sevens teach ones that it's safe to let go of the rules and enjoy life. What a concept. They work well together in that they are the best of both worlds, the dreamer and the builder. You see, sevens are brilliant at generating exciting, big picture ideas, but they struggle with follow through. So that's where ones excel. They bring this organization and logistics and discipline to the team. So together, they can turn wild dreams into reality. So I read this quote as said from an anonymous couple where they talked about what it was like to have shared growth. And they said, "We are two sides of the same coin. He helps me organize my chaotic ideas, and I help him see the world won't collapse if we eat dessert for dinner." Which type do you think each one represents in this relationship? Okay, our next matchup, type 2 and 9. Now, I wanted to talk about the 2 helper and the 9 peacemaker because, well, I'm a 2 and my husband is a 9. Something you may not know about me, when I was pastoring in the church, oh, yes, I was a lead pastor. When I was preaching, I would often talk about us, my husband and I, referencing situations in our life. I think I often said, "You're welcome and you'll thank me later." Not sure that turned out to be a good thing, and I'm sure I'll get some feedback eventually. Anywho, I can't say I'm a matchmaker of these two, but I'm sure we can find relatability. So, Enneagram Type 2 and 9 are highly compatible and form one of the most loving, peaceful, and supportive pairings in the entire Enneagram system. They're often called the special friends because their pairing or relationship is deeply caring, emotionally safe, and focused on making sure both partners feel valued and comfortable. You see, because both types belong to the positive outlook triad, they naturally prefer to focus on the good in people, look at the brighter side of life, and avoid unnecessary conflict. Ready to match another couple type? I wanted us to look at two of the same types. So our next matchup is type 3 and type 3. These Enneagram achievers often form the ultimate high achieving power couple. Double 3 couples are incredibly efficient. They smoothly coordinate tasks, support each other's career, and push each other toward higher personal and professional achievements. You see, instead of resenting the long hours their partner works, a 3, they celebrate it. They serve as each other's best coaches and cheerleaders and sounding boards. Threes naturally prefer to keep things rational, positive, and forward moving. They give each other plenty of personal space to pursue independent goals without clinginess, forming a no drama dynamic. So, together, they often present an exceptional, attractive, and energetic front to the world, making them natural leaders in their communities and industries, creating a radiant public image. Okay, our next match is type 4 and 2. Enneagram type 4 are individualists and our type 2, the helper, are highly compatible, often forming a deeply emotional, passionate, and romantic bond, which is known as the heart to heart. And this pairing belongs to the heart or feeling triad. This means they both prioritize relationships, emotional emotional depth, and connection above all else. This is a classic rescuer rescued dynamic that can be incredibly beautiful, though it requires self awareness to avoid emotional burnout. Some of their relationship strengths come from both types not being afraid of big feelings. See, they can talk for hours about dreams and fears and internal worlds, creating this rare level of vulnerability, which leads me to the complementary strengths. Twos bring warmth, practical support, and unconditional validation to the relationship, where fours brings creativity, deep authenticity, and willingness to explore the darker, messy side of life. They have a mutual appreciation in that twos love to feel needed and fours love to be deeply understood and cared for. And when healthy, the two helps the four feel seen, while the four helps the two to connect with their own hidden deep feelings. I love playing matchmaker. How about 5 and 7? Enneagram type 5 are investigators, and type 7, the enthusiasts, form a highly dynamic, intellectual, stimulating relationship, often called the mind meld couple. They are connected by an arrow line on the Enneagram chart. And if you're not familiar with that, make a comment in the review and I will help you understand that a little bit better. Their relationship is built on shared love for ideas, curiosity, and mental exploration. They have shared love for independence, as neither type likes to feel trapped, controlled, or smothered. They respect each other's boundaries completely. A 5 will never cling to a 7, and a 7 will happily give a 5 the solo time they need to recharge. 7s are excellent at generating big, exciting ideas, but they often get bored with the details. 5s excel at deep research, focus, and figuring out the mechanics of how things work. So together, they can take a wild dream and make it reality, which is due to them being visionary and an architect, resulting in this synergy. They can talk for hours about philosophy, science, art, and even future plans. The 7s bring breadth, knowing a little about a lot, while the 5s bring depth, knowing a lot about a specific thing. And neither type naturally enjoys wading through heavy, dramatic, emotional processing. In fact, they would prefer to analyze their experiences logically, which makes day to day life feel light and breezy and this low friction. Okay, next couple to match up. Enneagram type 2 and 6 are highly compatible and frequently from incredibly loyal, secure, and long lasting relationships, often called the bedrock pairing because both types belong to the compliant, dutiful triad, meaning they share a strong sense of responsibilities, focusing heavily on supporting others and valuing commitment above all else. This relationship team excels at building a safe and reliable and deeply supported home life. Both types are unshakably loyal, for they are deeply committed to making the relationship work. See, twos bring an unconditional love, while six brings unwavering trust and protection. This pair looks out for one another constantly, both having the skill of mutual caretaking. Twos anticipate emotional needs and offers physical care, while the six anticipates practical problems and creates safety and structure. Sixes are naturally anxious and suspicious of motives and thrive from deep security. That being said, the open, affectionate nature of a healthy two, it reassures them. And in turn, the steady commitment of the six calms the two's underlying fear of being unwanted. Okay, let's look at the next matchup. Type 7 and 2. Enneagram type 2, our helper, and 7, the enthusiast, are highly compatible, forming a high energy, vibrant, and incredibly fun relationship. They're often called the life of the party because both types belong to this positive outlook triad. They naturally gravitate toward optimism, joy, and looking for the silver lining in every situation. See, this relationship is a beautiful blend of deep caring and thrilling adventure, though it requires intentional grounding so it doesn't float away from reality. This dynamic duo has the strengths of high energy and optimism. Together, they are incredibly social and dynamic. 7 brings a sense of adventure and spontaneity and big ideas, where type 2 brings this warmth, emotional connection, and the heart to make adventures meaningful. So, what makes these two a good match is their mutual encouragement. You see, a healthy two acts as a dedicated cheerleader for the seven's dreams and projects. And in return, a healthy seven inspires the two to focus on their happiness, step out of their comfort zone, and enjoy life's pleasures. Nothing like generous love as both types. This is their natural gift. Twos give their emotional energy and support, while sevens give their time, enthusiasm, and desire to share life's best experiences with their partner. Okay, let the matchmaking continue. Let's look at type 8 and 9. These two form a classic, enduring partnership, often called the mountain and storm, 8 being the challenger and the 9 being the peacemaker. One thing to note is that they are each other's wing, so there is even more connection than most would see. They are of the gut triad, allowing for them to share this deep, instinctual understanding of the world while balancing each other's energy with perfection. Eights can be known to be intensely assertive and even have high energy, where nines, they're calmer, receptive, and peaceful. Nines bring a natural grounding wire, which softens the fiery energy of an 8, and in turn, the 8 provides this surge of passion, drive, and confidence to the 9. So they each can create space for vulnerability and non judgmental connection. Okay, here's our last matchup. Type 9 and 1, the peacemaker and the reformer. Both types belong to the gut or the instinctive center, meaning they share an innate desire for environmental safety. Theirs is a perfect balance between conviction and peace, blending a shared desire to live an ethical, stable life with a gentle, supportive home environment. You see, while one works to make things right, type 9 focuses on making things peaceful. Nines, their persona is a calm and accepting nature, which serves as a safe haven for the overcritical reformer ones, which are purpose driven. And so their decisiveness helps the hesitant 9 to move from daydreams into action. And so, final thoughts for the two types. Relationships experts describe this romantic matchup, blending a shared desire to live an ethical, stable life with a gentle, supportive home environment. Now, I know I've mentioned triads through our time together. So, a quick pause to remind us what they are. So, there's three: the head, the heart, and the gut. The head triad is where a person primarily makes decisions by analyzing all pieces of information before moving forward. And the heart triad is where an individual primarily process the world through emotions and relationships. So, like a two, a four, and a six. And the gut triad, they process the world primarily through instinct, somatic intelligence, and bodily intuition. So that would be your 8, 9, and 1. Okay, are we ready for the next part? Perfect. I thought you would say that. Let's look at some common challenges with each relationship type. Now, we know that each type comes with their core motivations. And so, of course, that can bring special and unique challenges. So, some common challenges that each type might face look a little something like this. And we're going to start with our type 1 and 7. And we spoke in previous episodes about blind spots. It's the way we act with those we are most comfortable with. So, with that, some of the challenges for a 1 and 7 can look like this parent child situation because ones can become critical, structured, or even bossy. And what that does is it makes the sevens feel trapped and suffocated and judged. Being a bit of an escapist, sevens may run away from conflict, hard conversations, or even routine tasks, leaving the ones feeling overwhelmed, resentful, and even abandoned by responsibilities due to their rigidity. They can struggle with and even clash in that ones they view sevens as unreliable and chaotic, where in contrast, ones are viewed as boring, inflexible, and even the fun killer. Some of the common challenges come from at their core, ones notice what is wrong and broken and needs improvement, whereas sevens are the positivity train. In fact, they hate negativity and will do all the things to reframe, even if it means cracking a joke to lighten the mood. I know you're probably thinking, why would a 1 and a 7 be a good match? Well, again, if we look at the gifts that bring them together. A 1 is very rigid and they like order and struggle with having fun and letting their guard down. Where a 9, being that they are the fun seeker, so when they're matched together, they feed off of the different qualities and meld those positives together. But it's also those things that can be a conflict in the relationship. And don't worry, we're going to talk about strategies to help with those common struggles. Okay, so what about our type 2 and 9? They struggle with this passive aggressiveness, which can happen because both types dislike conflict. A 9 will withdraw or become stubborn because they're trying to protect their peace. While a 2, they'll bottle up feelings until they explode in resentment. And of course, that can mean important issues are often swept under the rug. Both have unexpressed needs, where a 2 expects others to guess their needs, and a 9 often forget they even have needs altogether. Now, of course, this can lead to a relationship where both partners feel vaguely unfulfilled but refuse to talk about it openly. Their gift, but also a curse, is to overfocus on others because both types, they're naturally self-forgetting and focus on keeping other people happy. They may drain their shared energy on friends and family, and in turn, leaving little time or energy for their own relationship. Now, what about our 3-3 matchup? While a 3-3 pairing can conquer the world, their shared blind spots can easily derail the relationship if they are not emotionally healthy. You see, because both partners measure their worth by success, they can easily start competing against one another. They may silently compare their incomes, career promotions, or even who is the better parent. If they aren't careful, the relationship can begin to feel like a corporate merger rather than a romance. Conversations can devolve into logical planning, task management, and checking off to do lists. Both threes struggle with vulnerability and they hate looking weak. So, if a crisis happens, they may prioritize looking like the perfect couple to the outside world instead of admitting that they're struggling and, in turn, doing the messy emotional work which is required to fix it. While no one in this relationship is naturally inclined to slow down, two threes can fill their schedules so full of projects, social events, and work obligations that they completely starve the relationship of rest and intimacy. So, what is some of the challenges for a type 4 and 2? When they are in conflict, there's this demand for attention because both types they crave attention and will seek it differently. A 2 gives attention to get it, while a 4 withdraws so that others will pursue them. If a 4 pulls away into a dark mood, a 2 may overcompensate by pursuing them too hard, which in turn smothers a 4. And that's where we see this resentment versus self absorption. You see, 4s can become consumed by their own emotional waves, forgetting to check in with their partner. 2s rarely voice their own needs and will quietly overgive until they suddenly snap, accusing the 4 of being selfish. Varying views on negativity, the 2s belong to this positive outlook triad and prefer to focus on the good, while 4s are a reactive type who lean into this melancholy. A 2 may try to fix a 4's bad mood, which a 4 will interpret as a rejection of their authentic self. So there is that balance there. So, what does some of the conflict challenges or relationship challenges look for a type 5 and a 7? This pairing has a glaring vulnerability regarding how they manage their energy. 5s have this scarcity mindset They treat their energy like a limited battery that needs hoarding, where sevens have this abundance mindset. They believe energy is limitless and want to consume everything. When stressed, the sevens become louder and more hyperactive and demands companionship to avoid pain. On the other hand, this overwhelms the five. And so they retreat into isolation to protect their energy. So the more the five withdraws, the more anxious and demanding the seven becomes. And it creates a pursuer distancer trap. Both types prefer headspace over heart space. So they may collectively ignore relationship problems or grief. They can easily intellectualize their feelings instead of actually feeling them. Type 6 and 2. In conflict, these two struggle with anxiety enmeshment. You see, when stressed, these two can feed into each other's anxieties. The six, they worry about external threats and worst case scenario, while twos worry about the relationship fracturing. They can easily create this emotional echo chamber of stress where they become this suspicious versus people pleasing. Six, they value blunt honesty and can see a two's people pleasing tendencies or flattery as manipulative or fake. If a six interrogates a two's motive, what will happen is the two will feel deeply hurt, unappreciated, and even rejected. So then what we see is this over functioning where both types have a hard time relaxing. They can get so caught up in managing chores, anticipating problems, and taking care of everyone else that they forget to have fun, causing the relationship to feel heavy and even cynical. Don't worry, there's some positives coming. I promise. Let's look at our matchup, type 7 and 2. Conflicts can come in the form of avoiding hard realities. Both types are in this positive outlook triad. They desperately hate feeling trapped by these negative emotions. So they might even ignore relationship problems where they're sweeping those conflicts under the rug or running away from heavy emotional conversations until a crisis actually forces their hand. Another thing to make note of is this they have this clingy versus trapped dynamic. So when stressed, a two's core fear of being unwanted, it causes them to move closer and demand emotional reassurance. However, this can trigger a seven's core fear of being trapped or limited. And so it causes them, the sevens, to pull away or escape into work, friends, or hobbies. And when we remember that there can be resentment from overgiving, because a two will often try to satisfy all the seven's desires because they're hoping for this deep appreciation. However, sevens can be naturally self absorbed and moving at such a fast pace that they fail to notice the two's silent sacrifices. And this leads to the twos feeling used and resentful. So let's look at our next matchup, type 8 and 9. And while they are highly compatible, their biggest relation their biggest relational vulnerability is this destructive push and freeze dynamic. It's when they're stressed or impatient. It's when the eight is stressed and impatient, they can become demanding and aggressive and even blunt, which makes the which feels which then the 9 feels like they're being steamrolled and being pushed and even pushing them. When stressed or impatient, the 8 can become demanding, aggressive, and blunt. And they may treat the 9 like a steamroller, pushing them to make quick decisions or take action. And on the contrary, a 9, when pushed too hard, they're not going to fight back directly. Instead, they will completely shut down, even walk away or agree verbally while planning to ignore the 8's wishes. So, this passive aggressive resistance, it triggers the 8's deep frustration and it causes them to push even harder. Okay, and finally, our type 9 and 1 match. Because both types internalize and struggle to express anger openly, where ones repress it and 9s deny it, they can easily build up silent, intense resentment. Usually arises when the one's perfectionistic demands feels like criticism to the 9s. And what that does for a 9 is they completely shut down. To prevent their relationship from becoming cold and distant, this couple must learn to value both conflict and rest. Type 1s practice inviting the 9's perspective without immediately trying to correct it, while 9s must practice speaking up about their true feelings sooner rather than withdrawing. Now, we know no relationship is 100% of the time. So, of course, there would be conflicts and challenges. But don't worry, we won't leave it there. We all need some ways to focus on healing and repairing. So, let's look at important takeaways, strategies for working through common challenges by creating and developing healthy options for all our relationship types. So, here's the strategies, starting with type 1 and 7. When balance is created and mirroring the inner 7 as well, when 7s learn to access their inner 1, they mature and seek focus. So when they are purposed to have a shared vision, both are idealistic types who want to make the world better, though they approach it differently. Ones manage the details, schedules, and responsibilities, where 7s provide the fun, optimism, and big picture ideas, which are complementary strengths. It is important for ones to lower their expectations for perfection, which will allow the 7 to plan spontaneous dates without rewriting the itinerary. And another strategy for 7s is to follow through on your commitments. When you show up on time and help with daily chores before pitching the next vacation, your ones are going to be happy. And how we do that is utilize the 70-30 rule. That means that 70% of the time, scheduling firm reservation structure and tasks, which will help your type 1 get their needs met. And in turn, 30% completely have zero plan, which will let your 7 partner experience the you see me. So, what about our type 2 and type 9? Remember, mutual support, as it's important. You see, 2s focus on actively nurturing and giving love, while 9s provide a calm, steady, unconditional, accepting presence. And because both of you are deeply attuned to each other's feelings and needs, it creates an environment with very little harshness or judgment, which is definitely a non negotiable. You share harmony, creating a peaceful, welcoming home life. And you excel at hosting, taking care of friends, and creating a safe haven away from the chaos of the outside world. And as you remember these aspects of who each of you are by practicing healthy conflict and not viewing disagreements as a threat, it builds this relationship to thriving. Nines need a voice to their opinions directly, and twos need to ask for what they want clearly instead of dropping hints. It's really important for nines and twos to schedule check ins and set aside regular time to ask each other, how are we doing? Or how are you doing? Because what this does is it forces this hidden issue or hidden issues into the open before they turn into unspoken resentment. Also, by balancing giving and receiving, by keeping an eye on the relationship dynamic, it ensures the two is not doing all the active doing while the nine passively drifts along. Nines can show their love by taking the lead in planning dates or taking on specific responsibilities. Okay, our matchup 3 and 3. The first implementation is to shift your focus from achievement to authenticity. Go from the single sandbox to utilizing joint tools by reframing your individual success to be a collective win for the partnership. So, if working in the same industry, you can specifically celebrate your partner's success, which will in turn elevate your connection. So, utilizing a joint tool method, which would look like establishing a no business boundary by setting a strict rule that all logistical financial planning happens in a designated block of time each week. And remembering outside of this window is essentially off limits when spending quality time. Don't forget the importance of fun. While it is a core struggle with an unstructured time, challenge each other to book dates or activities where there is no goal, score, or networking opportunity. The key word here is being fun, 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 and more fun. Perhaps some of the following examples will help get you there. So, how about consider a sensory spa day or cooking a messy meal together without a recipe and listening to live, loud music while banning the word fine. Everything is fine. You see, it removes the instinct to brush it off with a superficial answer and in turn allows for your partner to recognize you are creating a safe space. When you have check ins, make sure to ask specific questions that truly have nothing to do with achievement. For example, what is one thing that felt heavy for you this week? What is a mistake you made this week that you're still processing? And how can I support your well being, not goals in the next 7 days? These questions can aid towards the healthy side of all relationships. So write them down. You can use them in all situations. Okay, let's get to some strategies for the rest of our matches. Types 4 and 2. As you're working on strategies for growth, twos need to purpose to stop trying to fix the mood. When your 4 is sad or brooding, they do not want to be cheered up. They want companionship in the dark. Just validate their feelings without offering a solution or trying to change their emotional state. I know that is hard, but it really does work. Fours, remember, it's important to give back because your twos, they look like they have it all together, but they are starving for appreciation. Actively ask your two about their day, their feelings, and their needs. Force yourself out of your inner world to show them this active gratitude. Establishing emotional boundaries are necessary because you both feel things so intensely. It's easy to become enmeshed. So practice taking time apart to pursue individual hobbies so you don't overwhelm each other with emotional demands. Okay, let's take a look at our fives and sevens in relationship. To break this loop, a five and seven needs a strict structure that respects the five's need for mental space and the seven's need for resolution and connection. Give your seven something that's called a return ticket. Don't ghost the seven by walking away silently or refusing to respond because it triggers a seven's deepest anxiety of being trapped and abandoned. Rather, request space with a deadline because fives, you have the right to withdraw and process, but you must tell your seven exactly when you'll return. Say something like, I'm overwhelmed right now and cannot think straight. I need 30 minutes alone to process this, but I promise I will sit down with you at 7 p.m. to talk about it. Stay present when you return. When the agreed upon time comes, show up fully. Do not hide behind a screen or keep your answers monosyllabic, meaning stay away from single word, short, brief answers. No, yes, fine, okay. You see, sevens, when you get anxious, you get loud. So try bringing the volume down and wait. You tend to talk faster and louder and fire off multiple points at once. And what happens for a five is they feel this verbal assault. So slow it down, speak slowly, and stick to one point at a time. If you have an explosion of thoughts during a five's timeout, I encourage you write them in a journal or a single bulleted note. There's nothing wrong with bringing a paper to a conversation. I use that skill all the time. This will satisfy your need to express the ideas without overwhelming your five. How about a couple of joint action steps? Drop the rationalization and use feeling words such as I feel lonely when or I feel trapped when. Have a time limit for how long you will talk through the conflict, like 20 minutes, allowing for fives to stay fully engaged, where sevens get a chance to focus on the core issue. When you both are working towards avoiding the concept of everything is fine, because the truth is neither of you like heavy emotional drama, you might end up both agreeing to just ignore the issue and pretend that everything is fine. So, in other words, don't avoid those things. Get into it head on. Do not sweep these things under the rug. Small resentments quickly turn into massive walls of detachment. Okay, next up, we have our types 6 and 2. Strategies towards growth work when sixes offer reassurance before you analyze. And if you're feeling anxious or skeptical, reassure your two of your love before you voice your doubts. You see, twos need to know they're safe with you before they can hear your constructive criticism or logic. Twos, practice being direct and transparent. Don't just hint about things or be passive aggressive or emotionally withdrawn to get your needs met. You see, when you remember that sixes don't like those hidden agendas, it encourages an opportunity for you to speak your mind clearly with authenticity. And what happens then is that your six partner, will respect you even more. Perhaps we all need the following, but maybe not our sevens. They're pretty good at it. Schedule mandatory fun because sixes and twos are both duty oriented. You must actively protect your downtime. Schedule dates or vacations where you are strictly forbidden from talking about logistics, finances, worries, or family drama. Okay, type 7 and 2. Are you ready for some strategies? Sevens, slow down and be the anchor. Remember, your two needs emotional presence, not just a partner in adventure. Practice slowing down, sitting with your two, and listening to their deep feelings without trying to spin it into a positive or changing the subject to a future plan. And remember, twos, it's important that you speak up immediately. Do not quietly adjust to a seven's fast paced lifestyle while building resentment. State your boundaries and needs clearly and early. Remember, sevens are highly resilient and prefer this direct communication over emotional hints or passive aggression. Lean into hard conversations and accept that conflict and negative emotions, they're actually a healthy part of growth. Set aside specific low stake times to talk about uncomfortable truths or relationship tweaks so they don't pile up into this massive explosion. Another key ingredient is to give sevens an exit option. If they feel trapped, they will fight or flee. So twos lower the stakes by assuring them, we don't have to solve this whole thing right now, but I do need you to hear how I feel about this one piece. So, what about a joint action step? Start with separating the feeling from the fixing. And you do that by dedicating the first 5 to 10 minutes strictly to expressing feelings and listening without defending. Switch to a brainstorming fun, positive ways to fix the issue, which is the strength of a seven. Frame boundaries as a win win. Established rules and schedules are not restrictions. In contrast, they are what will free up high quality time for the both of you later. How about our type 8 and 9? Here's some strategies. Start with establishing framework that respects the eight's need for direct resolution and the psychological safety of a nine. Eights, this can happen by dropping your volume, sitting down, and softening your posture. This way, nines, they're not feeling like it is a normal debate causing a terrifying explosion. Avoid the need for snappy decision making, as it will cause nines to say yes just to escape and completely freeze. And we know the truth is, neither is helpful or a healthy option. Other strategies is let nines hear, I'm frustrated, but I'm not trying to attack you. And nines, remember, it is equally important to not slip into the silence tactic and the, in quotes, whatever you say, as it will create distrust for the 8. Make sure to use make sure to utilize the processing time with a deadline. See, 9s need this time to work things out, but also 8s need to know you're coming back to the table. So 9s, if you were to say something like, give me 20 minutes to process, and then we can come back together at a specific time. You see, what it does is it gives the confidence and comfort that an 8 needs. So, how about some joint action steps? Remember not to list off all the grievances, rather, keep the discussion to one topic at a time. Make sure to allow for each of you to have the speaking stick so it creates the opportunity to be heard while practicing the listen to understand rather than a listening to respond. I think that all of us could use that technique in our relationships. And finally, but never least, our last matchup, types 9 and 1. Remember, these pair form a steady, comforting relationship. So try something called schedule and soft, meaning you have a structured approach, allowing for 9's time to process without feeling attacked, which guarantees for a 1 this window to resolve the issue without feeling ignored. A couple of other strategies: 9s have been known to stonewall. So agreeing just to end the argument, which in turn, it will breed long-term resentment. So avoid retreating in silence. 1s, you are a I want to talk now kind of person. So what that means is it's important to not spring a serious discussion on your 9 relationship. Rather, give a heads up. For example, I want to talk about our budget. Can we discuss it tonight after dinner? That will give them peace of going into that space together. So let's look at some joint action steps. Try using I statements. You see, 1s tend to bring up a list of past mistakes. So focus strictly on the present. Define a clear resolution. End the conversation with actionables and an agreed upon next step. Remember, you are so connected that you fundamentally understand each other's inner world. Okay, so that ends our matchmaking for today. But I do have some final thoughts. Keep in mind, strategies help each person and their Enneagram match type work through those challenges, right? And it's equally important to remember that challenges can masquerade as weakness, but it's all about perspective. So finding ways to make the weakness work, when we turn it around, we can make it a strength, which is where awareness comes into the picture. I want to add that the types that we match today are not all the possibilities with types and relationships. There are so many variations all around us. So, taking the time to really get to know the person you picked so that they will always pick you back and vice versa. As we close our time together, I found this last quote, and I really feel like it describes our journey together today. Enneagram pairing are less about perfect matches and more about balancing core fears and motivations. So, with that, as you're looking at your relationships, your current relationships, whatever they look like, keep in mind that each of us have strengths and weaknesses that come from our core motivations or fear, desire, weakness, and longing. So when we take stock, we can see the benefits of these attributes. We can then make adjustments, working towards better understanding and a relationship that is true for you and your partner, true for you and your friendship, or other types of relationships within your circumstances. So that being said, take care of each other. Find ways to see the beauty in all of it, the similarities and differences, as it is what makes each of you unique in your unique pairing. And now, our favorite part, the legal stuff. This podcast is for informational purposes only and does not constitute professional advice. This podcast is not a substitute for medical care. The materials, movies, videos, or books referred to in this podcast are recommendations only. The views expressed by our guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect the views of the podcast host. That's me, or sponsors. Join me each week as we dive into all things Enneagram, self-care ideas, self-love patterns and rhythms, share ideas from other reputable authors, doctors, and my favorite podcasters. A big thank you to you for being here with me today on Core Motivations Podcast. We're counting on you to help spread the word about core motivations. Spill the tea. Tell all. Be an oversharer. I'm okay with it. So, hit the follow button, share this episode with someone, and please leave a review. You can find me, Michelle, on Instagram at core_motivations_coach or through email, michelle@coremotivationscoach.com. So let me leave you with this. Until next time, and as always, I'm rooting for you.